Alright, g'day, hi and welcome. Okay, I'm going to talk about some heat ranges of plugs. Okay, this is a NGK9EK or CR9EK, which goes into my bike. And as we can see, it's pretty corroded and pretty dirty and stuff like that. I've slightly tested it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up with some parts cleaner here, or brake clean. I don't have a little mini wire brush, but what I'm going to do is just going to get all that. I want to get all that gunk off there. You got to kind of work quick because this stuff evaporates, which is good. It's what you want. Wow, is that ever rough? And the heat range on a plug is determined by this part here. Okay, the longer it is, typically the hotter the plug's going to be. The shorter it is, typically the cooler the plug's going to be. So what would be something to look at for a heat range? Let's say you got a plug that's recommended by the manufacturer, but it's not a hot enough plug. Well, one of the things that could be happening, providing everything else is working fine, is you're probably going to get a fouling on the plug. Now that might not be the main cause. It could be not proper, but proper, it could be other things. So we're assuming that everything is working 100%. Your fueling system, whether it's carbureted or an injector, whatever, injected, is working perfectly. Now, assuming that that's working perfectly, okay, and your fuel-air mixture is, if it's a carburetor, you got them carb synced and you got pretty good, you're getting good stuff like that. Your fuel injectors are working perfectly. So it's not a case of the fuel injectors not working perfectly or whatever. Maybe you're just running too rich, but you'll see that on all your plugs, so then you can lean it out a bit. But let's say you've leaned it out as much as you can safely, and you don't want to lean it out anymore because you don't want to cook the top end. Well, then what you need to do, what's happening is that your plugs are fouling up because it's not burning off all that fuel. So you need to go to a hotter plug. Is basically the short of it. So I wanted to cover that. And again, the two types of plugs that you're going to be looking at are typically ones with internal shielding. Basically, the probe has like a shielding on it up here as well, so it's shielded. And a shielded plug, what it does is that, whenever you're listening to a radio and you had an old snowmobile or a lawnmower and you started it up and then the radio went haywire on you, well, that's usually, and you'll see this with old cars with old plugs in it. You turn on the radio and you hear like this pulsing in the radio, and what that is the frequency from the spark plugs interrupting it. It's like when you turn on a blender and it disrupts everything. Same effect, but when it's shielded, it doesn't do that, so it doesn't interfere with your radio or maybe your cell phone or whatever. I need a little bit more on there. This plug is going to take a little bit of work, but it doesn't look too bad. Like, it's not as bad as it looks as usually, but you can see my O-ring definitely needs to be cleaned off, because if it can get past that O-ring, it might be able to work its whatever corrosion into the head, and I don't want that. So to clean these up, what I'm doing, and again, there's a million ways to skin a cat here. You can use a wire brush, you can use sandpaper, but be very careful with the sandpaper. I don't have my plug gapper with me, so I can't show you that. I don't know where it is. I'm going to pick one up tomorrow. But it doesn't really matter for these set of plugs, because I think these ones are going to go the way of the Dodo anyway. And I'm going to get a whole new set. Just be careful when you're moving around cleaning the ceramic part, because sometimes you can break them, and then it'll start moving, then your plug's no good at that point anyway. But if I can keep the bike rolling down the road a little bit more, and again, test it dirty, test it clean, and then test it warm, clean cold, and then clean warmed up, and see if you get a difference in variation on your plugs. I have no way to heat up the bike right now, or heat up the plugs right now, so I'm just going to take a chance on it, but I don't want that corroded one in there, even if it's still good. So I'm going to do another test on it, and just really quick see what I get. But I want to do that. Then I'm going to grab my little pipe cleaner. Okay, and it's going to go in between the... some plugs are different. You won't have the two little tabs on there. You might only have one. But for higher performance machines, I think they have two. And if you can see metal again, like shiny metal again, it's good. So I'm going to use this little pick here just to kind of scrape some of that rough stuff off out of there to clean up that bit. Then I'm going to grab my, where did I put it? A sandpaper. The sandpaper ran away. Ah, there's my sandpaper. I'm using 2000 grit, but you could probably use a little bit more coarse grit than that. I'm just doing that for today, and then the idea is I just wanted to test the plugs before I spent $80 to $100 replacing them. So I wouldn't care if I wasn't on a tight budget, but when I'm on a tight budget, the other thing I'm going to do is watch. I'm not moving the gap, but I'm going to go in between there, like so. Just get a little bit more in there. Might work. Might work. So I get a little bit of a shine in there. Okay, I'm not trying to distort anything. I'm just trying to just give it a quick clean up. Little wire brush. One thing, wash the threads so you don't mess up the threads, and then maybe give it another shot of brake clean. Don't use any oil-based stuff on it. That's not a good idea. Next to that, yeah, just get it as clean as you can. Test it one more time, see what you're working with, and maybe I'll do another video of the final test. Well, no, I think I can squeeze it in on this video. Maybe I'll do that. So that's about as good as I'm going to get these plugs. So they look better-ish. These might have been new plugs 2 years ago, but yeah, maybe not. But I'm really concerned of how that corrosion got in there, so that's a little better than what it was. The first threads on it is the ones that are really the most important, because that's the one that's going to start the whole process of threading it back into the head. And again, you could see in the other video how I threaded it into the. Was that in this video? I think that was in this video. I make so many videos, it's like so concentrating on like 20 things at a time. So I'm going to test these plugs. I'm not testing them perfectly right now, but just to see, after cleaning it, if it makes a difference. And once again, I'll test the probes. So again, measuring good. Dead on. Nothing. I'll bring that up to here. This plug actually is in better condition than I thought. This might be the best plug here, yet it's the most corroded. Oop. Not even blipping a bit. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. No. So all the plugs are doing the same thing, so they're probably just a little bit weak, but they're not showing me numbers that I shouldn't see. So again, what I'm doing here is seeing if I'm getting a ground out through the casing in an area where it shouldn't be grounding out, because that's if you're getting that, then you're getting your spark is being diverted is what's happening. Oh, drop it right in the sand. Start over again. Yeah. Alright, anyway, you get the idea, so I'll put this one back in and clean it again, and then I'll get it back in. Do not drop them in the sand. Alright, there you go.